In this last square, what we're going to do is we're going to use all the tips and tricks that we've learned throughout this to make one really nice looking sketch. So the first thing we need to do is find center. So we're going to do what we used on creating the circle. We're going to connect the corners to find center. And right here is my center point. Now, what I need to do is I need to make one circle. Now, the circle that I would like to choose is the circle that's somewhere halfway between the center and the outside line here. And so when I look here, I think the center is about right there. So I'm going to choose this third circle over to draw over here. If you are right between them, go a little bit larger rather than smaller. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to do my third mark and I'm going to go around just like we did for the other circle. We're only doing the third mark, or the mark that is closest to halfway filling the square. Remember, you can rotate your sheet to help you out. And make sure the corner is at the center. Okay, so now that I've got the points I need, I'm going to use those to sketch a circle. Make sure this circle is very circular, no bumps, no lumps. Okay, so there is our circle. So what I'm going to do now that I've found that is I'm going to erase the lines I used to find center and the center point, because those will not help us. In fact, they will hurt us to have them there. So we're going to go ahead and eliminate those. So you might be able to see the center point or these lines a little bit, but try to erase as much as you can, and you should have a nice, crisp, clean circle here. So our next step is to draw horizontal lines a 1/4 inch apart, just like we did in the first box. Now, there's one thing we're going to do differently here. When we get to the circle, we're going to stop. And start up on the other side. So go until you hit the circle, stop, and start on the other side. and fill up the entire rectangle with horizontal lines except for inside the circle. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw vertical lines. Now these vertical lines should also be 1/4 inch apart, and one thing to note is the shape that is left behind when you draw this should look like a square. Okay, so once you have all of the vertical and horizontal lines drawn, excluding the inside of the circle, we need to start making the lines in the circle, but we're going to do it in a special way. This line right here appears to go right through the center of the circle. Because it goes through the center of the circle, we're going to draw that straight through the center of the circle. Okay. Now, as lines get further away from the center, so this line right here is close to the circle, but it's not on the center, so we're going to bend that slightly away because it's close to the center, but it's not on the center. Now, as you get further from the center, these lines bend further away. So you're diffracting these lines away from the center. The closer you are to the center, the less it diffracts. The farther away from the center, the more it diffracts. Okay, then we do the same thing vertically. Now, this is a good time to really take a look at your drawing and see if it has the right effect. If it doesn't, go ahead and repair it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add, so what we just did was what we did here, which is we did symmetry. Whatever, we used the line in the middle as the symmetrical line, and then depending on what side of the line, we bent the lines away. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do shading. Now, you don't have to shade these completely. This is a really rough, quick shade like that. And what I like to do is I like to start in the corner and work my way across. That way I don't lose track of the squares, and I do continue right into the circle and across the circle, going corner to corner. And I'm not taking much time to shade each one of these. And then what I do is I skip a circle or a square and I go on to the next. And I go diagonally and fill these in. Now, we sort of ignore the edge of the circle So we can fill in squares that are part in the circle and part out of the circle. And this is just really quick. It doesn't have to be super dark, just giving it some shading in each one of these squares. What we're giving this the appearance is like a checkerboard. And then the shape in the middle gives the checkerboard sort of some depth, like there's a 3D object sitting there. Just make sure you're at the corners of the previous ones you've shaded. Remember, you can cross the circle to go into squares that are part in and part out. And when you're finished, it should look something like that. And what it looks like to me is you have like a glass ball sitting in the middle of a checkerboard, and it's sort of magnifying the checkerboard.